Hello, welcome to a vision board making video. Today I want to walk you through my past 4 vision boards, tell the story, see the progress of how it has actually changed my life and how certain things about different vision boards I used were more effective than others. And then I want to sit down and actually show you what my vision board is for this year. Because vision boards, if you do them right, they tell the story of your life. It's like a different chapter in your life and all the moves that you're making. I don't want to just tell the story retrospectively and say this is what happened, but I want to write the story going into the future. I love the quote, sometimes we overestimate what we can do in a year, but we underestimate what we can do in a decade. And vision boards just show that. It just shows the timeline of growth, and I think it's really beautiful. I want to show you where I've been, show you where I'm going, take you into my vision board and my goals for the year, and I want you to make yours too. Let's get started. The first year I ever made a vision board, I was living in Boise, Idaho. I have this picture, which I'll put on the screen, snowy picture of my house. This is where I was living at the time. And at the time I was a teacher, and I'll have a picture of what that looked like there. And the thing about me with teaching was before I even graduated college, I knew that I did not want to be a K-12 teacher. I love teaching in general, and that's pretty much what I do on YouTube. I'm pretty much a teacher on YouTube, but I did not want to be a K-12 teacher. I already knew. And so teaching was just really depressing. I went to work and I spent 8 hours there. I worked really hard, never felt like I was doing enough despite working really hard. And then I would come home and I was so exhausted from the demands of all the people that I didn't want to do anything in the evening. So I had no life outside my evenings. And when COVID hit, I decided, you know what, this is a really great opportunity to make a change. Because the way my district handled it from March to August, I pretty much had no commitments, but I was still getting paid during that time. And so I thought, this is a great launch pad to just try something new. This is a crappy time, but I want to use it for something productive. And I've been wanting to make a change. There's never going to be a better opportunity than this. To get paid for almost 6 months while not really having to work, like how much better of a runway can I get? So I made my first vision board, which I will show you on the screen. This is just really a vision board of someone in their early 20s. Now, a lot of the things on this vision board, I don't think really came true to their fullest extent. The lessons from this vision board are that I was putting things on the vision board that were only 10 years out. These are still things that I want to do, but they're so far out that I haven't achieved them. Even like 100K, I still... Please, someone help me. I still have not achieved 100K. A lot of these things, they still resonate with me. I still want to speak on big stages, get in Loser, we're healing and falling in love with life again. I mean, that is something that I think I did, really fall in love with life again. The transcendence, I spelt it dance, like transcend dance, because I love dancing, and that's something that I have done way more dancing. Paddleboarding was something in Boise, I paddleboarded all the time, and that's something that I love paddleboarding and really miss being here actually. But as far as like the home, speaking on big stages, this laptop and some penthouse, none of that has happened. And that's just because those things are so far out. They're still absolutely on my goals list, but they're so far out. And even like when you think about at this time, my huge goals were with YouTube, and there's hardly anything about YouTube on here besides 100K and being like a CEO, like seeing YouTube as a business. That's something that I always wanted to do. You kind of like fast forward, I've got this little like dry erase YouTube routine. I mean, I'm just making gains with YouTube. I made this list, this whiteboard list of things that scare me. And interestingly enough, everything has come true on this list. I made it a point a while back that I was going to write down anything that scared me, and I was just going to do it and confront it. And at this point, every single thing on this list has happened, which I think is really cool. It's kind of like, it's a similar concept to a vision board, but it's a little different. During that time, I got monetized on YouTube, really exciting. And in between that vision board, I was like making the YouTube routine. I got monetized on YouTube. I quit teaching. I mean, from making that vision board to just fast forward within that year, so many things changed, quitting teaching. And it was a risk for me to quit teaching at that point, but then it became an even greater risk when Garrett lost his job because of COVID layoffs. So I had just quit my job, and then immediately Garrett lost his job. We had been thinking about moving back in the area where our parents lived, and we thought, you know what, let's live with parents for a year, save up money. And the thought at the time was that he could start a business. So we're like, okay, let's do this. So we moved back in with parents. At that time, that was really a setback. We'd been talking about moving back to the area that my parents are from. We'd been talking about it for a while, but the circumstances in which it happened were just not the best. And to go from teaching to then quitting my job to then living with parents, it just really felt like everything was moving backwards. And when I look back at that now, I see that as like a slingshot. It was going backward to just catapult me forward. At that point, San Francisco was not even like a blip on the radar. But when I was living back home, I made this vision board. As you can see, and this was the first year I made the vision book, the first iteration of the planner, there is a bunch of San Francisco on this vision board. Paddleboarding is still there, but there's the Golden Gate Bridge. There's a shot of downtown San Francisco. It's really doctored now that I live here. I'm like, there's no shot that has the Golden Gate Bridge right there with that. Anyways, and biking. I've always been obsessed with biking. I was like, I just want to bike. I want to be outside in the sun. All these images are sunny because when I was living in Idaho, it was so snowy, and seasonal depression is something that is just really intense there. And I was like, I just need the sun. I really need a sunny place. And so this was my vision board. But what was so hard about the move to San Francisco is when you live in Idaho, like I made $24,000 a year teaching. Like the cost of living is so cheap. Here, like a 1-bedroom place costs $2,700 a month. How do you make the transition? It's really difficult if you want to make that transition. What we ended up doing was when we lived with parents, we saved up all this money to move to San Francisco. We didn't know what we were going to save the money up for at first, but then we ended up using it to move to San Francisco. And within, I would say it was like I was doing Vlogmas that year, and it was toward the end of the Vlogmas that we decided that we wanted to move to San Francisco. And at the time we weren't sure if it was exactly San Francisco or maybe LA or maybe San Diego. So from December to June, all of these things on this vision board started happening. Moving to San Francisco, biking in San Francisco, moving here. I mean, everything just happened so quickly on that vision board. But the deal was, because things were so expensive in San Francisco, I had to go back to teaching. We could afford to do it in Idaho, but we couldn't afford to do it in San Francisco. So the first year we lived here, I went back to teaching. And man, nothing to get you motivated like going back to a job that you do not like. That was just kick in the teeth, really. In that time, I made this vision board, and this vision board I think has been one of the most successful that I've ever made. One, I went to a vision boarding night in San Francisco. There was a workshop that they had. There was a bunch of us. They had a cheese board, they had wine, and so it was such a good vibe, first off. I think that's one thing that made this more effective just in the creative process. Two, I came with images of specific things that I wanted. These things are so specific. If you compare this to my very first vision board that I made, those things are vague, they're 10 years out. These things are specific in the near future. Like this image. This is the neighborhood in San Francisco I wanted to live in. I now live in that neighborhood. This is an image of a random place in San Francisco that I found, and I wanted a house that looked like this. That was airy and light, had appliances like this. That is what our house ended up looking like in San Francisco. And now this one that we're in right now, I wanted to move into a 1-bedroom place because when we first moved here, we were in a studio. We did that. I put an e-bike on here because I wanted an e-bike, and I got an e-bike. I have this shot of biking along the ocean, what could be Ocean Beach, who knows. Now the Great Highway is open, if you're familiar with San Francisco very much. Now it's about to be open to bikes all the time. This is literally the camera that I have, and now I've upgraded it since, but this is literally the camera that I have, and I now do this full-time. Dream job. I did not have it at the time. I was able to afford to become a full-time YouTuber in San Francisco, and that's just crazy. This, like podcasting with a mic, look, I've got like this podcast mic. Watching a movie on a rooftop, done that. Several outdoor movies in SF. Having a planner that's neat and organized. Reading. I did so much reading. I got into so much fiction reading that year. And just all these inspirational quotes. I just went to Muir Woods. And I think the craziest thing of all is this bank account number. I wanted to have $10,000 saved. Last year just completely changed my life with the planner. What was crazy to me is it just because the cost of living in Idaho is so different, but I made more money in a month than I had in 2 years of teaching. I think it's just crazy. So what I have learned from these vision boards and from this whole journey is that the more specific things you can actually do in a year, the better. I've put things that are really far out and it's like great, but you kind of stop noticing it after a while. But when you put specific things, I want an e-bike. I want to live in this neighborhood. I want my house to look like this. I want a bike in this location. I want to use this camera. Like the more specific, the better. So with that, I want to show you my goals for this year and I want to make this year's vision board together. Okay, let me show you the images. Okay, first one is just driving along the ocean. I want to have a car this year and I want to take drives along the ocean. Since we moved to San Francisco, we haven't had a car, which I really love the walking lifestyle and I don't want to get rid of the walking lifestyle, but I miss the freedom of having a car. You can get around cars for like $5 an hour, actually. They're pretty cheap, but I just miss the drives and the ocean views. And when I think about my life purpose is to feel expansive, there's nothing that makes me feel more expansive than being by the ocean. This is a photo of my analytics, which I doctored to say that I have 100,000 subscribers. That is something that has been a goal for a long time. I just have done so much change. It's like moving from Boise to Coeur d'Alene to San Francisco, then moving to this place, and then teaching and not teaching and teaching and not teaching. There's just been so much change that I feel like the full energy I could put into YouTube is kind of dwindled, but I'm like, this is the year that it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen sooner rather than later. Okay, this is someone reading at a coffee shop because I just love the vibes of reading at a coffee shop. This is having a house and look at the ocean view of that house. That is probably far off, but I am just like calling my shot. I'm going to have an oceanside house at some point. I don't care if it is a studio or 1 bedroom or it's a shack, but I'm going to be by the ocean or a lake. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, is it important to me that it's an ocean or a lake? And I was like, I actually don't really care, except for that they're kind of few and far between in this area. So if I want to be in this area, it probably has to be the ocean. This is music. I want to get more involved in music, singing, writing songs. I think it's important to have kind of a main job and then to have a side project. And for a while, YouTube was always kind of the side project when I was teaching, but now that YouTube is the main project, it's important to have a creative project that's unrelated to your job. This is just a reminder, a lot can happen in a year. And it was important to me to have so many ocean images because of expansiveness, just like an office overlooking the ocean, another office looking over the ocean. This quote, if you want to make the wrong decision, ask everyone. I think over time with YouTube, it's just, like, first I was doing what I wanted to do, and of course the views weren't there, so then I was just kind of doing what would work with an algorithm, and then that gets views, but it makes you unhappy, and I'm getting to the point where it's like, I don't want to do that. I want to be my authentic self. I've learned a lot of stuff. I've learned a lot of metrics, but it's important to me for this to be fun. This is an actual Airbnb in the SF area that I'm going to go stay at. This is like a PowerPoint projector. What it says is not really important to me, but I want to start doing projector videos because I love the vibe of projector videos. It's something new I want to try. I want to experiment with it. This is leading a team. I want to make gains on having a team. If you didn't know, if you ever emailed me, my husband is probably the one who responded to you. He signs with his name. But my husband and I do this together now. That has been a huge turning point. When I just think about a few years ago, I was teaching, Garrett was doing maintenance, and like the thought of San Francisco was too expensive. And now I'm fully funding us living in San Francisco. I mean, that's pretty crazy. This is a stack of books because I love to read. Every time I stop reading and then I get back into it, I realize I'm just meant to read. I love to teach. I love to learn. And I just need my mind to be filled with ideas all the time. More coffee shop, because nothing more inspiring than working in a coffee shop. This has turned out to be an incredibly pixelated image of paddleboarding. I'm just obsessed with paddleboarding. I think paddleboarding has came up on every single vision board. And since I lived in Boise, I have not been able to make that happen because it's not as easy in the places I've lived since. Okay, this is a beautiful Ocean Drive. Beautiful, beautiful. This is a shot of my analytics. This was a shot from last year, I think. And it's just a reminder, this is real. Look at all the videos I was posting. Look at all the work I was putting in and look at the results it got. So let's do more of that. This is my new favorite quote. I'm like a broken record for this quote at this point. The object isn't to make art, it's to be in that wonderful state which makes art inevitable. It just reminds me the point is not to focus on 100,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers. The point is to focus on reading and growth and being inspired. And then when that happens, the seed will naturally sprout, which will naturally become a trunk, which naturally will have branches, which naturally will have the fruit, which is the subscribers. This is, you probably can't see this at all. This is a YouTube comment that I doctored of what I think like an ideal YouTube comment would be. Alexis, you made so many things click for me. You have such a simple depth about you and an ease to it. I wanted you to know that I watched your video last year and I'm now a published author. I've been following along your entire journey and seeing your growth is inspiring. So I decided to jump in and follow. And it just kind of is like a North Star. This is what I care about. I don't care about having 100,000 subscribers. I care about people doing the thing. Like for me, going from teaching to YouTube, and I love my life so much more. That's just all I want for people. I just want people to do things that kind of scare and excite them. Now, there's a couple plan B images that I didn't include, but like one is that I need to decide if I need to commit to is, am I going to write a book? There's so much that I don't talk about on YouTube with my past experiences because they're not super related, but I think they would be better suited in a book. And I love to write. I think I'm more suited to a slower form of communication than video, so I'm not sure. So those are all the images. I'm not going to tape them on yet because I'm actually having a vision board party with some friends. So I'm going to actually like have fun with some friends and get this all laid out then, and that'll be around the new year. But I wanted to get this video out like well before the new year just to inspire you guys. And I just wanted to give us hope that just like remember 5 years from now, you're going to be in what you're dreaming about now. And I think in a lot of ways where I am right now is far better than I could have ever expected or imagined. I have this quote here. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a month. We overestimate what we can do in a year and we underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. That has already bared out to be true, that there are years where I feel like I didn't get everything done that I wanted to get done. But when I look back over the 4 years of this journey since I've been doing it, I'm way beyond where I thought I would be. So this was all about a physical vision board. I made a video about how to make a digital one on Canva if you want, and I linked templates that you can use with like a torn paper effect. So if you're interested in that, I will link that video. I hope you make a vision board. I hope you celebrate your wins and the progress and how far you've come, because I think that that is one of the most beneficial things about a vision board. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being along in the journey, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.